In November 2025, the engine was running at full power. 794 square kilometers, seized in 30 days, villages swallowed, defensive lines overrun, positions that Ukrainian soldiers had held for years, taken in a single month by a Russian army that moved with the grinding, relentless momentum of a machine that had been running for 4 years and showed no sign of stopping. Putin stood before his generals. The maps showed bold red arrows pointing west. The numbers were in Russia's favor. The colors were moving in the right direction. The spring offensive of 2026 was going to finish what 2025 had started. Ukraine's defenses would crack. The fortress belt would fall. Zaporizhzhia would follow. The war that was supposed to last 3 days was, 4 years later, finally building toward the victory that Moscow had been promising since the beginning. The engine was running. That was November. This is now. Russia's army recorded no territorial gains on the front line in Ukraine in March, for the first time in 2.5 years. Not a slowdown, not a pause, not a tactical redeployment. Zero. The engine has seized. The army that seized 794 square kilometers in November 2025 gained nothing in March. The spring offensive that was supposed to break Ukraine open advanced less ground than a city block. The war machine that Putin built over 20 years, fueled by oil revenues, sustained by fear, powered by the myth of Russian military invincibility, ground to a complete and total halt in the month it was supposed to accelerate. But that is not the most shocking detail. The most shocking detail is what was happening on the other side of that frozen front line while Russia stood still. Because Ukraine was not standing still. Ukraine was moving, recapturing, liberating, reversing 4 years of painful, grinding loss, not with a massive counteroffensive, not with NATO tanks charging across open ground, but with patience, precision, and a strategy that Russia's generals never saw coming and still do not have an answer for. We walk through all of it, the numbers that expose Putin's LIE, the mechanism that stopped Russia's war machine cold, the spring offensive that arrived and immediately stalled, the soldiers who are choosing to end their own lives rather than walk into Ukraine's kill zones, and the question that no one in Moscow can answer without admitting the war they started is a war they are no longer winning. History has watched this happen before, and the parallel is not flattering for Moscow. In the winter of 1812, Napoleon Bonaparte marched into Russia with the Grande Armée, 600,000 soldiers, the most powerful military force Europe had ever assembled. They were fresh from a decade of victories that had reshaped the continent. His generals were confident. His maps showed Paris to Moscow as a straight line of conquest. His supply chain was designed for a short, decisive campaign against an enemy that would break under pressure. The enemy did not break. Russia retreated. As the French army advanced deeper into hostile territory, something began to happen that no map had prepared Napoleon's staff for. The supply lines stretched beyond their capacity. Ammunition ran short, food ran short, horses died, soldiers deserted. By the time the Grande Armée reached Moscow, it found a city that had been deliberately burned. There was nothing to take, nothing to hold, and no way to sustain an army that had advanced so far from everything that kept it alive. Napoleon retreated. Of the 600,000 soldiers who crossed into Russia, fewer than 100,000 returned. The picture we see today is almost an exact replica of 1812. Russia in 2026 is not Napoleon in one crucial sense. It is the invader on familiar terrain, not foreign soil. But the structural failure is identical. An army that advanced too fast, stretched its supply lines too thin, and now finds itself holding territory it cannot supply, sustaining casualties it cannot replace, and pursuing objectives its own generals privately admit are unreachable. The engine that powered the Grande Armée ran out of fuel in the Russian winter. The engine that powered Putin's spring offensive ran out of something different. It ran out of answers. The numbers tell the story that the Kremlin cannot. Look at Russia's monthly territorial gains from October 2025 to March 2026. Each figure smaller than the one before. Each month a shorter bar on the graph. a machine decelerating in real time. October 2025, 525 square kilometers. November 2025, 794 square kilometers. December 2025, 569 square kilometers. January 2026, 469 square kilometers. February 2026, 313 square kilometers. March 2026, 0 square kilometers. To understand what that trajectory means, consider this. Russia was launching more drones in March 2026 than at any previous point in the entire war. A single night assault on March 24th involved nearly 1,000 drones. More missiles, more artillery, more resources poured into a grinding offensive that was supposed to finally break Ukraine's will to resist. The result was 0 square kilometers, more firepower, less territory. The engine consuming fuel it no longer has, producing nothing it needs. In the first 3 months of 2026, Russian territorial gains were half those of the same period in 2025. Half. To understand what that means in human terms, Russia is working twice as hard to achieve half as much. Twice the casualties, twice the ammunition expended, twice the equipment destroyed. For 50 cents on every dollar of territorial gain it achieved the year before. And the cost in lives is where the numbers become genuinely difficult to absorb. In the 4 days leading up to March 23rd, Russia launched 600 assaults across the front line. 600 separate attacks in 4 days. Those attacks produced 6,090 Russian casualties. Taking the full week into account, Russia suffered 8,710 soldiers killed or seriously wounded, for virtually no territorial gain. 8,710 soldiers in 7 days. To understand what that number means, the United States lost 58,000 soldiers across the entire Vietnam War, a conflict that lasted nearly 20 years and ended a presidency. Russia is now losing that many soldiers approximately every 47 days. A prominent Russian milblogger stated that Russian forces would take around 100 years to seize the rest of Ukraine at their current pace of advance. 100 years, not a Western think tank, not a Ukrainian propaganda outlet. A Russian voice embedded in the Russian military information ecosystem, writing for Russian soldiers and Russian commanders, calculating that at the current rate of advance, the war Putin started to conquer Ukraine in 3 days will end in 2126. The engine is not just slowing, it is dying. Why did the engine seize? It is not because Ukraine suddenly found a miraculous new weapon. It is not because NATO secretly intervened. It is not because Russian soldiers stopped fighting. It is because 3 things broke simultaneously. And when 3 load-bearing pillars collapse at once, even the heaviest structure cannot stand. The first pillar was communications. Russia banned Starlink. Its own soldiers had been smuggling terminals to coordinate drone strikes, connect commanders to frontline units, and share real-time battlefield intelligence. When Moscow ordered those terminals dark, in a bizarre act of self-sabotage driven by paranoia about information leaking to Ukrainian intelligence, it did not blind Ukraine. It blinded itself. Units in the field could not talk to each other. Drone operators could not coordinate with the infantry. Commanders could not see the ground in real time. A modern army without communications is not an army. It is a crowd with weapons. The second pillar was the southern flank. Russia has lost ground on the southern section of the front line, between the Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk regions, where it occupied more than 400 square kilometers at the end of January. This area shrank to 200 square kilometers in February, and to 144 square kilometers in March. More than half of what Russia fought to take in the south is gone. While Moscow was announcing its spring offensive to the world, Ukraine was quietly dismantling the territorial foundation that offensive was supposed to build upon. Elite Russian airborne and naval infantry were rushed south to stop the bleeding. They failed, and every unit sent south was a unit no longer available for the eastern offensive that was supposed to be the main effort. The engine was being asked to power 2 machines at once. It could not. The third pillar was the fuel itself. Ukraine's long-range strike campaign against Russian oil infrastructure in the Baltic region has taken 40% of Russia's crude oil export capacity offline. Less oil exported means less revenue. Less revenue means less money for drones, missiles, ammunition, and the signing bonuses Russia has been using to recruit soldiers at 15 to 20 times the rate it paid at the start of the war. In Ryazan, a March 20th decree required businesses with between 150 and 500 employees to nominate between 2 and 5 workers to sign military contracts. Businesses choosing employees, sending them to war in a supposedly volunteer army. This is not the behavior of a military on the verge of victory. This is the behavior of an engine that has run out of the fuel that kept it running. The spring offensive did not fail because Ukraine was too strong. It failed because Russia was already broken before it began. The consequences of March's zero extend far beyond a bar graph. Battlefield realities as of late March 2026 continue to show that significant Russian battlefield gains, let alone total victory, are not imminent nor inevitable. The Kremlin is trying to create a false sense of urgency by reportedly trying to force Ukraine to cede the unoccupied part of Donetsk Oblast, which Russian forces have proven unable to take on the battlefield. Read that phrase carefully. Unable to take on the battlefield. This is the language of the Institute for the Study of War, March 31st, 2026. The most respected independent military analysis organization tracking this war used the word unable in the same sentence as Russia's primary military objective. When a military cannot take on the battlefield what it demands at the negotiating table becomes a theater of desperation. And that is exactly what we are watching in Moscow's latest diplomatic moves. On March 31st, 2026, Zelensky revealed that Russia had demanded Ukraine withdraw from the entire Donbas region within 2 months. The next day, Kremlin spokesman Peskov escalated, saying Zelensky should have made that decision yesterday. Every demand Russia makes at the table is a demand it cannot enforce on the ground. Every deadline it sets is a deadline its army cannot meet. Every ultimatum it issues reveals the gap between the war Putin is describing and the war his soldiers are actually fighting. Every drone Russia launches at a Ukrainian city is one fewer available for the front line where it is losing. Every soldier conscripted from a Ryazan factory floor is one fewer skilled worker producing the equipment the army needs. Every ruble spent on signing bonuses is one fewer ruble available for the weapon systems that could actually change the battlefield equation. In Washington, European capitals, and the corridors of NATO headquarters, the mathematics of March are being studied carefully. Russia's war in Ukraine continues to consume manpower at an unsustainable rate, with Moscow unable to simultaneously rebuild battlefield losses and generate the strategic reserves needed for decisive offensive operations. Unable to rebuild and generate simultaneously, an engine cannot power itself and move forward at the same time. 3 trajectories are now visible. In the most likely scenario, Russia stabilizes its front line through April and May, absorbs its catastrophic March losses, and resumes its push toward the fortress belt with whatever reserves it can scrape together. The advance restarts, but slower than before. The bar graph shows a number above 0 in April. The Kremlin declares momentum restored, but the underlying mathematics do not change. The engine restarts, but it is running on less fuel than before, with fewer parts available for replacement, and a driver who has already told his passengers they will reach their destination in 100 years. Stabilizes. In the second scenario, Ukraine's mid-range drone campaign continues to degrade Russian logistics and air defense in the occupied territories faster than Moscow can replace them. The kill zones that now extend 93 miles behind the front line expand further. Russian units that have been holding static positions for months find themselves fighting not just the enemy in front of them, but the drones hunting them from behind. The spring offensive does not restart. It dissolves into a defensive crisis that Russia never prepared for because it never believed it could happen. Drones. In the third scenario, the one the trajectory of these numbers points toward, the one that a bar graph declining from 794 to 0 in 6 months is describing, March 2026 is remembered not as a pause, but as the moment the engine stopped permanently. The moment a military that had been advancing for 4 years ran out of the forward momentum that had sustained it. The moment the war Putin started to conquer Ukraine in 3 days, revealed its final, true destination. Not Kyiv, not the fortress belt, not Zaporizhzhia, but a frozen front line, a hollowed army, and a 100-year timeline that no Russian president can survive politically. Permanently. The engine can restart. Can. But some machines, once they have seized, never run the same way again. There is a bar graph that the Institute for the Study of War published this week. Bar graph. It shows Russia's monthly territorial gains from October 2025 to March 2026. Each bar shorter than the one before, each month a smaller number, the trajectory of a machine decelerating towards stillness. Trajectory. Putin's generals will tell him the engine will restart, that April will be different, that the reserves are coming, that the spring offensive is just finding its footing. Restart. They may believe it, or they may be doing what Russian military commanders have always done in the presence of a leader who punishes bad news, telling the man at the top what he needs to hear, while the soldiers at the bottom pay the price for the distance between the briefing and the battlefield. Battlefield. 794 square kilometers in November, 0 in March 2026. The machine that was supposed to conquer Ukraine in 3 days has been running for 4 years. Running in March 2026, it stopped. The only question left, the one that will define the next chapter of this war, the next decade of European security, the next generation of what Russia becomes after this is over, is whether the men in the Kremlin understand what that silence means, silence, or whether they are still listening to the engine they believe is running, listening. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Geopolitics Brief and stay with us as we continue tracking every shift on the front lines of this war.